Hello, everyone. Checking. We are getting ready to start, and we would like to request our speakers to say hi so that we can check your connections. Let me also pin today's event to the very top over here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. It's definitely so exciting to talk about Bitcoin versus altcoin. Right? As we see that the altcoin season is definitely here. And I see that we have Charlie, our co-founder at Labs. Would you like to start your mic and double check our connections here?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Mulat, for the
Hello.
invitation. Can you hear me?
Yes, super clear. Thank you so much. And I also see that we have Joshua, our head of product at Solar. We double check. Okay, Joshua still connecting. Let's wait for him for a while. And we have Henry. Hello.
Hello, Moonlight. How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you so much for joining us. And we also have our Scarlett. Hello.
Hey, Moonlight.
Awesome. We can hear you as well. Nice. And Joshua's over here as well. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Amazing. Yeah, we still have about 1 minute until we officially start today's space event. And we do hope our audience can help us to share the link across different channels so more audience can join us. Thank you so much. Let me see. Okay, I believe everyone is over here. So can get ready to start. The time is 7 p.m. Hong Kong time, or if you are in Singapore, and 6 a.m. in North America, in New York City over here. If you are early bird like Moonlight. Welcome everyone to today's Bitcoin dominance versus altcoin season. We're going to understand the shifting crypto market. And thank you so much, Hash Global, for organizing this amazing event with our guest speakers from Biller Labs, Charlie, co-founder, and we also have head of product at Solar, Joshua, as well as Hash Global's research analyst Scarlett and crypto analyst Henrik joining us today. First, we would like to invite all of our speakers to introduce yourself. And by the way, I'm Moonlight. I'm head of committee at Nimbo Network, and I often host our Hash Global Space event. Now, microphone to Charlie. Would you like to introduce yourself and your project to our audience? Thank you.
Sir, thank you. Thanks again, Moonlight, for the invitation. Great to be on the HashKey panel, AMA. Today's topic about Bitcoin dominance versus altcoin season. Pretty interesting. Obviously, as you can tell, I'm working on the Bitcoin ecosystem as one of the fastest growing Bitcoin L2 called a bit layer. We are in the orange team. It's good to talk. Good to talk about this interesting topic. My background: I'm being involved in crypto space since 2015. Early involved with the Ethereum community. First round investor for Polkadot from 2017 to 2020. And previously, I lead the ecosystem building for Polygon in 2021 in APAC region. Orange Pill myself 2023 in the first week of ordinals. That's why I joined the Bitcoin Ready. We started late last November. So far, we have quite a lot of things going on in the Bitcoin ecosystem. We're launching our V2 very soon. Stay tuned on that. 2024 has been an amazing year for Bitcoin, and we've been probably one of the fastest growing Bitcoin ecosystem in the space.
Amazing, Charlie. Thank you so much for joining us. And everyone, I also want to remind you that Ashley Belair is giving away a lot of great reward because they are having a Bitfire, BTC Fi carnival right now. So definitely be sure to check it out. And I also see our BitLayer official handle is in the audience. Feel free to join us on the stage as well. Thank you. Next, we are going to bring the microphone to Joshua Lee, head of product at Solar, to introduce yourself and your project to us. Thank you.
Hey everyone, Joshua here. Thanks for having me on this space. And yeah, I think happy to kind of give a bit of a background as well. I started first on BNB chain actually, and then from there, when I'm very much in the altcoin ecosystem, went to EVM, Cosmos, a bunch of other kinds of, I guess, a bit more on the modular stack, and then now I'm over on the Solana side as well. So I guess it's not it's more on the altcoins. And but Bitcoin has had a tremendous year, I think, and that actually very helps a lot of the altcoins as well. And we can get back into a bit of that in a bit. But yep, that's my bit of background for Solana. We're the leading restaking protocol on Solana, and we help to, number one, accelerate transactions and increase network bandwidth, and number two, we help with allocating capital a bit more efficiently. So that's a bit of a background on our project, and yeah, happy to kind of jump into this discussion.
Nice. Thank you so much, Joshua, for joining us today. You're definitely an expert in those areas. We're going to ask you related questions later. And next, we are going to bring our microphone to Scarlett, our listing research analyst at Hashkey Global. Thank you.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Scarlett. So I joined Hashkey Global this April, and now I'm currently working at as an listing research analyst here. So yeah, I mean, Hashkey Global now is the one of the most compliant exchanges in the world, and we have just ended our Bluefin launch pool, and the return was amazing. And we're actually going to open our Maca launch pool as well, so make sure that you don't miss that. And I'm really glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to discuss the altcoin season with everyone. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Scarlett. Yes, let's talk about Bitcoin or altcoin, right? Which one dominated this cycle's bull run, right? Thank you so much. And next, we would like to invite Henrik, our frequent speaker, also a crypto analyst, to introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, Moonlight. Hi, everyone. So my name is Henry. I've been around in the Bitcoin space for a few cycles now, started in 2013 doing some Bitcoin mining. And it's very interesting to see the evolution and to see now institutions adopting Bitcoin, right? Because in 2013, definitely no institutions, no retail. Yeah, so it's very good to see this progression. Other than Bitcoin, well, I started to work full-time in the crypto space in 2017. I've worked at Hashkey Capital, as part of the research team, and left Hashkey Capital 6 months ago to start my own ventures, Be Limitless Ventures. And very excited to be here with you today to talk about these cool topics.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Henry, for joining us. And everyone, we can't wait to start our very first discussion topic. We know, well, a lot of countries, especially El Salvador, right, adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. And also, Bhutan has leveraged Bitcoin mining for state-backed project as well. And we also see on the news that in the States, policies, right, are evolving toward Bitcoin, particularly with ETFs and increasing institutional interest. So, how nations and governments are embracing Bitcoin, and what are the implications for the broader crypto market? And of course, I believe this question we're going to first invite our Bitcoin expert, also co-founder at Belair Labs, Charlie, to share your views with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking this question. Definitely a lot to share by building the ecosystem around Bitcoin this year, and I've been travel around the world attending all the Bitcoin conference. Billionaire sponsored all the Bitcoin magazine official events. They're our investor as well. We definitely through all this conference get to know a lot of the Bitcoin OGs, chatting with them about a lot of things, and also observed a lot of interesting historical moments. Right, in July in Bitcoin Nashville, the new president Donald Trump, at that time he didn't win the election yet. Obviously, it was very different dynamics now. He gave a very interesting historical speech, right? So I think now moving forward, we're gonna see a very interesting U.S. government presidency which is pro crypto, right? It's first ever in history. We're gonna have a pro crypto U.S. government, and we are seeing like on-chain data that I really told, right? Over 100 billion buy pressure from the Bitcoin ETFs already coming into the Bitcoin assets. I think 2025 will be more major pension funds, family office, and through the Bitcoin ETF, gonna have that Bitcoin exposure. So we're very bullish on Bitcoin as assets, as a market cap. Um, in terms of ecosystem, we are certainly bullish as well. That's why we're building this. There's massive amount of Bitcoin liquidity can be activated through on-chain programmability layer as us. We believe Bitcoin DeFi could be one of the most exciting sector moving forward. While Bitcoin being more and more mainstream adopted by the government, by the mainstream TradeFi institutions, and even retail as well, there's going to be tremendous amount of builders and also potential to activate the Bitcoin liquidity to enter and building Bitcoin DeFi. And it's not just for the sake of Bitcoin itself as silos. All the programmable Bitcoin can comes to all the other ecosystem, all the other altcoin as well, such as Solana and others like Aptos 3 and many other new fast-growing ecosystem as a new source of liquidity. So we see the synergy between Bitcoin and all the other assets, all the other ecosystem. And at the end of the day, I strongly believe this is the first institutional bull market with over a billion, 100 billion, buy pressure already, right? We're expecting another, let's say, 300 billion, right? And then this is kind of the whole entire buy pressure from the institution. These are new liquidity and new money coming into place, and that's the major driver why Bitcoin had this very fast 5x pump, right, from 20,000 to now 100,000. Today it just hit another all-time high, right? So that's the new money, that's the new user, that's the new industry frontier compared to 2021, which was very leveraged and a lot of the hype just from the retail because of NFT and stuff. It's a very different dynamics cycle, which is very exciting. And yeah, I think that's why we're saying it's a Bitcoin bull market, an institutional bull market, and it gradually will enter and flow to the altcoin season.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charlie, for sharing your views with us. And also, yes, Bitcoin hit another new all-time high today. So today is a very good timing to talk about Bitcoin versus altcoin, right? And next, we will also like to invite our speaker, Joshua from Solar, to share your views. Thank you.
I think Bitcoin, we just hit all-time highs, and I think that's a really big bullish signal, not just for, I guess, Bitcoin, seeing all of that, like what Charlie mentioned, all of that buy pressure coming in from your institutional clients, people who never actually had like a good outlet to kind of get into the whole crypto space because of on the regulatory side. Now they have a bit more leeway to kind of get officially get involved with the Bitcoin ecosystem and in crypto in general. I think that's a big win for the entire industry because now people are going to be seeing this entire industry in the more, I guess, reliable light. And I guess that is a rising tide that kind of lifts all the different boats, right? So I think for bringing Bitcoin liquidity on chain, definitely, I think that's quite a few projects are looking at this. I think like Zeus network on Solana is bringing some of that Bitcoin liquidity over to Solana as well. So I think that's one thing that could definitely allow different kinds of crypto projects to kind of access the liquidity that's coming in from Bitcoin. But yeah, I think overall, I think altcoins and Bitcoin they do have a very, very positive correlation, right? Mainly because if Web2 hears a bit more about Web3 and traditional markets, but still very early in the process. So I think that most of the world they're still not actively using crypto, right? So as many opportunities that we can to kind of gain mindshare in that space, I think that's going to be beneficial for everyone, both people who are like Bitcoin, altcoin. I know people make that distinction, but I do see us as more of a like a united kind of community instead. It's kind of bring a bit more awareness to decentralization and more on the, I guess, the first principles of crypto.
Totally agree with you. Thank you, son Joshua. Yes, actually, everyone will be benefits in the Web3 space overall, right? Once the Bitcoin price is going up and a lot of different sectors will also be get attention, right? And thank you so much, Joshua, for sharing your view with us. And next, we're going to invite Henry, our crypto analyst, to share your views. What do you think the Bitcoin adoption in this bull cycle? Thank you.
Yeah, no, like your initial question was more like to address how nations and governments are adopting these. And I think that's a super interesting question because it's very important to really zoom out and give an historical context to how empires and civilizations eventually collapse. And most of the times, big empires collapse for one single reason, which is they print too much money and their money is not backed by anything. So if you look at the Roman Empire history, their currency was initially backed by gold, and they started to devalue the currency, start to unpeg it from gold and just melt it with cheap metals. And the Roman Empire ended up collapsing because people didn't trust their currency. And what we have at the moment with fiat currencies and including uh, pretty much all the currencies in the world is that they are currently not backed by anything, and they are just backed by trust in the government. But can we really trust that governments will not print too much money? And I think we have been seeing throughout history that we cannot trust that. Currently, some countries have been hoarding some gold, so their currency is partially backed by gold, very, very partially. But now what we see is some countries adopting Bitcoin, very, very early stage, but adopting some Bitcoin reserves to reinforce their currency. So we saw El Salvador, Bhutan. Apparently, Bhutan have been mining Bitcoin since like 2012 or 2013, and they have huge Bitcoin reserves. It's very cool to see that such small country have like billions and billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And we might see the Trump team next year um, doing some Bitcoin reserves, or at least starting to accumulate some Bitcoin. And this is very important because the first countries to move to do this will really reap most benefits. And just like, gold is also a volatile asset, right? Gold price goes up and down all the time. But the countries that accumulate most gold are the ones that have best stability for their um, for their currency. And the same way will happen with Bitcoin, because I really see Bitcoin as like digital gold. Bitcoin is scarce. It's in fact even more scarce than gold because Bitcoin current inflation rate is lower than gold. Gold have doubled its supply over the last 70 years. Bitcoin is durable, portable, verifiable, way more verifiable than gold. I don't know if you guys know, but for example, in the 70s, when France repatriated their gold from US back to France, the only way for them to verify if that gold was real was to literally melt tons and tons of gold, melt it to see if the gold was real, right? So Bitcoin is way easier to transport, to verify, is more scarce, it's better everything. So yeah, this is what I think is going to happen. More countries will adopt it as a reserve currency. And I would like to invite everyone to read the book, The Bitcoin Standard from Seferdin Amroz, which is an amazing book that talks about this topic, and everyone should really read it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Henrik. Yes, exactly. Bitcoin as digital gold, right? And also be sure to read the book that Henrik suggests us to check out. Thank you so much. And next, we are going to go deeper to talk about could Bitcoin adoption by countries challenge the dominance of traditional reserve currencies, and what role might central bank digital currencies, for example, CBDC, as play alongside Bitcoin in shaping global financial systems. First, we would like to hear the viewpoint from Charlie, the co-founder of Billionaire Labs. Thank you.
So before I share my own personal opinion, yeah, it's just my personal opinion. It doesn't represent Belayer officially, but I do have strong takes on that. And the definition of CBDC, let me clearly define. It's central bank digital currency, right? Based on the permission and network central government wants to support and recognize with their authority. It certainly has these features of payments layer. There's a few countries kind of already explore that with a few permission network in the past. But the implementation and impact of that is actually pretty serious, noting. And it comes down to the first principle. The reason why, and actually Henry mentioned about in a very good big of time frame, right? Look at the dynasty, why certain government and dynasty actually come and go with a hyperinflation. The reason why we have Bitcoin, and Bitcoin started in 2008, right? After Satoshi's white paper, is because we need to have a new alternative system being kind of the check and balance, right? So if we look at the spectrum of centralization, decentralization, and also all the other first principle, CBDC is actually the opposite of Bitcoin in terms of the new property of money. So we have to be very clear on that part. Whatever represent Bitcoin in terms of Bitcoin culture, the whole liberal market, modern finance, the new digital gold, the global money, CBDC is actually the opposite. So that's something we have to get it very clear. Otherwise, we are not in the same layer to talk about the new, the new introduce new money, new type of money, right? Having said that, is that CBDC have big impact on Bitcoin? I don't think so. It's going to be different. I think Donald Trump made it very clear during his election. U.S. government is not going to have CBDC. Several governments kind of have a little attempt, but I don't really see the momentum. At the end of the day, the global market of the money market and also global finance market, they want to enter to the new frontier of modern finance, right? So Bitcoin is become a very interesting digital assets with the momentum they had this year. Uh, BlackRock, all these major institution is seriously putting that into their balance sheet, right? Together with like major company like MicroStrategy, their entire strategy is based on Bitcoin and investment, right? They have now become the index on Nasdaq. So we see the mainstream adoption and the major institution onboarding Bitcoin. I am very strongly believe the future of Bitcoin as a very important component for the modern finance and the future of finance. I'm not necessarily sure the impact and the future of CBDC. I think for a Bitcoiner and building things around Bitcoin, we don't necessarily need CBDC, but for certain anti-liberal regimes, maybe that's the way they want to go about it, which is unfortunate. Um, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think that's something we need to be very careful when we're introducing the CBDC thing. We need to understand the underlying first principle, what exactly they represent. What is this new type of money represent? You basically give away your privacy entirely to a central authority for the future. Especially, they can froze your account. They can limit your buy pressure. You can limit your use case of your money, which is the opposite of liberal. So that's something we have to be very careful.
Nice. Thank you so much, Harley, for the heads up. Certainly need to pay attention about those issues. Thank you. And next, we would like to invite Joshua Lee, head of product at Solare, to also share your viewpoints in terms of the role that central bank digital currencies might play alongside Bitcoin in shaping global financial systems. Thank you.
Hey, yeah. I guess this is a very very tricky topic when it comes to CBDCs, and there are multiple kind of lenses that we can kind of take when we're looking at it. I guess I kind of agree with Charlie, and this is not an official statement from Solar. I think this is more of a personal opinion that there's a reason why people chose to go with crypto, even from a technological point of view, right? Putting the same kind of data and distributing it around the world might not be the most technologically like efficient thing, because the most efficient thing, you have a massive server, you dump everything in it, you're done. But we are going through all of this effort to find consensus and store data around the world using crypto, different kind of technologies. I think the main principle of it is that level of decentralization, right? I guess if we go back to first principles, CBDCs is a big step forward from what we had in like traditional banking systems. I think it's like a digital improvement. But if you're talking about in terms of the Web3 lens of why are we even doing this in the first place, I think CBDCs might miss the mark a bit on that side. But I do think that there's also some benefits that can happen, mainly because um as users, as people who are maybe they have zero, like absolutely no crypto experience, or do they, maybe they don't even want to have any crypto experience, but are there ways that through like a participation in the larger economy that they're still able to kind of like work with crypto in some sense, right? I think that's where you can bring on board people who are, I guess, not as plugged in or do not have the time or the bandwidth to get as plugged into crypto in general. Can they benefit from things like that, right? But at the same time, I think it also can be pretty dangerous depending on how it rolls out and how exactly the policies are being done or how the markets also react to that. So I think yeah, very interesting points. Yeah, but this is just my 2 cents on this.
Thank you so much, Joshua, for sharing with us. And we also would like to invite Henry to talk about this topic. What role do you think CBDC could play alongside Bitcoin in shaping global financial systems? Thank you.
Yeah, look, I 1,000% agree with what Charlie says. The only thing that CBDCs and Bitcoin have in common is that they are digital. The rest is totally the opposite, right? And basically, Bitcoin is about freedom, decentralization, and self-sovereignty, while CBDCs are about control and hyper centralization and potentially like no privacy at all. And I want to give you this example. In Europe, I'm originally from Portugal. In Portugal, you cannot pay more than 3,000 euros in cash. There are countries that are even worse. In France, you cannot pay more than 1,000 euros in cash, even if you are donating that money. This is done to have full visibility and full control. This is made in the name of anti-terrorism and anti-money laundering, but then it will end up being used against people's privacy, because what we see in this changing world is that sometimes people have different opinions, and if you don't have the same opinion as the opinion of the government, they can just censor you, right? And in the world where we have CBDCs, if the government doesn't like you, they can just press a button and now you cannot use your money. Um, so this is really the total opposite of the Bitcoin vision. And yeah, but at least there is some hope that seems that some countries are fighting back. It's important to have some level of privacy. And that would be okay if there is a CBDC, but with like total privacy, maybe some zero knowledge proof technology, something that really doesn't allow anyone to to censor or to turn off your wallet just pressing a button. If we can have a system, a CBDC, where that is decentralized, uh, I'll be okay with that. But the problem is that they are super centralized. Yeah, that's my take.
Got it. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your views in this round. And we are going to go to our next segment and talking about Bitcoin, say, corporate assets. And the question is, MicroStrategy will famously adapt Bitcoin as a treasury asset. Are more companies like to follow, or what factors drive these decisions? And what are the possible consequences that adopting Bitcoin as a treasury asset for companies, do you think? And we would like to first invite Charlie, co-founder at Belayer Labs, to share your views with us. Thank you.
Okay, just to clarify, MicroStrategy has been kind of claiming that, putting that balance sheet for a while. And what's new is MicroStrategy stock, right, being listed, featured on the Nasdaq index, which is a major thing because this is the one of the first Bitcoin narrative stock, right? Stock, in the Nasdaq that being featured in the index. In the future, will be more and more projects, more and more company, listed companies with their stocks do the same. Then we will have more momentum in terms of mainstream adoption, right? Bitcoin or Bitcoin narrative stocks being the mainstream, blue chip stocks in the world, right? So look at the Bitcoin market. It sits around 1.5 to 2 trillion right now. It's still lower than Apple and Nvidia, a few other major tech companies market cap, right? In terms of the entire valuation. If 1% of the entire Fortune 500 of those companies putting Bitcoin for treasury management or asset management perspective into their balance sheet, we are expecting hundreds of billions, even a couple of trillion, right? Level of a very exciting movement. Obviously, that's going to take a while. We're not going to see that in the next 1 year or two, probably another 4 or 5 years, but gradually will be evolution. It's same as gold, right? Gold was not the first major commodity assets being well adopted by all the entire world, right? In the entire financial market in the world. But it took a couple of decades, even hundreds of years, right, to eventually became like that. Originally, before gold was silver, right, and then even copper, and that's kind of just because of the whole property of gold, and more and more countries and more companies start adopting that. The same goes to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has 15 years of history right now. It went through multiple cycle already, and this is an important cycle. The mainstream company is going to adopt that and seriously thinking about putting that into the treasury, right? To do asset management. This is a very good start, and that will be the history moment. 20 years later, when we look back, that's the same vibe when we look at 40 years ago. We have the Bretton Woods system, right? Um, yeah, so it's a very important year for the modern finance history. If we zoom out in a bigger time frame, right? It's an important year for the crypto as an industry, which is very young. But if crypto is part of the entire financial industry, it's a very interesting milestone for the entire modern finance industry. So things like this will happen. More and more Fortune 500 companies gonna start talking about their Bitcoin strategies this cycle. It's gonna be a very seasonal hot topic. People gonna follow one way or the other, and we're gonna see big FOMO even from the countries to gradually start following the trend, putting Bitcoin in their national treasury, meaning they're not selling as what the German governments did in this summer, right? Which was maybe not the best financial or investment decision, right? They missed out a couple of billion on the returns, and actually a major strategic position, right? Because they get rid of all the Bitcoin they had. It could be very strategic position for them. It's going to be difficult for them to buy back with actually now double the price now. So yeah, so I think that's gonna happen gradually. It's gonna be a movement in the entire world, but it's gonna take time, right? It's not gonna be, oh, we're gonna see all the Fortune 500, all the Nasdaq listed company start doing the same thing in one cycle. But it's gonna be an evolution across 4, 5, even 10 years, one after the other, gradually gonna come over. Yeah.
Wow, Charlie, you are definitely very knowledgeable in terms of, yeah, everything Bitcoin. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us. And next, we are going to bring the same question to Joshua, the head of product at Solar, to talk about when we look at MicroStrategy plan, right, adapting Bitcoin as a treasury asset. Do you think other companies will follow, and what factors will drive these decisions? Thank you.
Yeah, this is a very interesting topic. I have two opinions on this. One of them is that first of all, MicroStrategy's business model is pretty brilliant. A lot of people were focusing on bringing real assets on chain, and that's definitely a huge opportunity as well. But Michael still actually went the opposite. He brought crypto assets to mass distribution with people in the real world. So I think that actually presents a massive opportunity. There's a lot of money be flowing, mainly because people are now interested in crypto. People who in the mass market, right, beyond more on the Web2 side. And I think that in that front, I think companies would definitely be there's gonna be huge demand from Fortune 500 to kind of get into crypto. And the first touch point probably be in Bitcoin. And I think from there, I think some of the interesting things that also come up is the infrastructure that's built for these companies to basically own Bitcoin. that infrastructure is going to be useful across the board for any kind of other cryptocurrency that's going to be, I guess, more institutionalized in the future. I think one quick example would be like back when it was also fairly recent. I think PayPal paid EY, so like the major consulting company EY. Yeah, PayPal paid Ernst & Young using their PYUSD. And the important part about that is I think that ran under like most people's radars. They just thought, okay, this is just like a public stunt by PayPal or something. But the main point to take away from all of this was that these are massive corporations. Ernst & Young says like so many, like hundreds and thousands of employees, right? Same for PayPal. And these massive enterprises, they talk to each other through SAP or like these massive ERP software, right? That these corporations use. So SAP had to create something called the Digital Currency Hub, which means that all the other Fortune 500 companies that are all using SAP now have this one module that they can use to now hold Bitcoin, hold digital currencies. And that was distribution that was done, but probably didn't like kind of like register for a lot of people in the industry. So I think like this, when the infrastructure is being built for companies, like to accept even just one form of cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's PYUSD, or whether it's some other thing in the future, that kind of infrastructure can be shared, and that distribution also kind of helps create new pathways, right, for liquidity to kind of enter into crypto, and also to kind of distribute crypto in the mass market. So I guess these are my like kind of two quick opinions on this.
Thank you so much, Joshua, for sharing your opinion with us. And we, of course, would like to invite Scarlett, our listening research analyst at Hash Global, to talk about, in your opinion, what are the possibilities, possible consequences that more and more companies are adapting Bitcoin as treasury asset. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Moonlight, and thanks, Charlie and Joshua. Definitely agree with you guys. So what I did was I looked back into MicroStrategy's history of purchasing Bitcoin. So it actually started purchasing Bitcoin in 2020, and it announced its first convertible bond offering to purchase Bitcoin in 2021. And now it has over 400,000 Bitcoins at the moment, and it's worth 23 billion and more, and because Bitcoin's price is rising today, so it's probably worth a bit more than that. So if we think of what MicroStrategy is doing, so it is basically just purchasing Bitcoin at leverage. So we all know that a company's valuation is equal to the company's market cap plus the discounted future growth, then plus the loan options. So MicroStrategy's net asset value in Bitcoin is actually 2.8x. And this means that buying MicroStrategy shares implies paying a premium of 2.8 times the Bitcoin's value. And this premium reflects the added value of the company's strategic approach and its ability to leverage Bitcoin's price fluctuations for greater returns. So I would say that this kind of strategy has been really successful, and its stock price has surged more than 560% in the past year. And also, like Charlie mentioned, that MicroStrategy has been included in the NASDAQ 100 index, and it's actually becoming the 40th largest company, which is phenomenal for the crypto space. So such success, like if you ask me, like are more companies going to follow? I would say that the fact is that this already attracted a lot of companies' attention, and as a matter of fact, according to DL News, there are actually approximately 144 companies currently holding Bitcoin on their balance sheets. Those companies include, Marathon Digital, MetaPlanet, Selmer Scientific, etc., etc. So, and there's actually one more good news today for companies adopting such strategy. So FASB, so the Financial Accounting Standards Board, has officially passed their fair value accounting rule for Bitcoin, which will apply for fiscal year starting after December 15th, which is today. And this change will promote enterprises' adoption of Bitcoin as a reserve asset. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Scarlett, for sharing that great news with us, and certainly very exciting about more companies adapting Bitcoin as their treasury asset. And we are also going to bring this question to Henry. What do you think about the possible consequences that more companies are adapting Bitcoins? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I'd like to know your opinion about what I'm just about to say, which is a few days ago, the Microsoft shareholders, it went to vote a number of things in the shareholders meeting, and they voted against the Bitcoin investment proposal. So the Microsoft shareholders don't want Microsoft to invest in Bitcoin. Only 0.5% approximately of the shareholders voted yes. And why is that? I have to understand and kind of be on the side of the shareholders in this case, because it's like this. When I invest in a company, when I invest in Microsoft, in Apple, in any of the S&P 500 companies, I want to invest in their business. I don't want to invest because they are investing in Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So MicroStrategy is kind of a different situation. They decided to I really admire Michael Saylor and what he's doing, and he decided to go in a different direction, and that's fine. But not all companies need to be like a Bitcoin, almost behave like a Bitcoin ETF, right? A leveraged Bitcoin ETF. Like companies, I think they should focus mostly on their business. If they have cash flows, if they have a treasury, reinvest that treasury into the business, do R&D, expand their business, or pay dividends. You know, maybe they can have a little bit of Bitcoin just to edge against inflation. But I think like most companies, their business, they are not in the business of like hoarding Bitcoin. So yeah, that's kind of my view. I think still okay. It's okay to have some Bitcoin, but it's not all companies need to be like MicroStrategy. And then like just looking alone at MicroStrategy, I think MicroStrategy at the moment is trading at like a premium of like 300% comparing to its Bitcoin holdings. So I don't know very well what's going on there. Of course, they have Michael Saylor has a long-term Bitcoin strategy and buying more Bitcoin all the time, and that's great. But okay, 300% premium compared to its Bitcoin holdings, and considering the value of the business itself, I think the company is quite overpriced at the moment. I think there might be some irrationality around like the price of MicroStrategy stock. Yeah, that's my thing. If you guys have any opinion on this.
Well noted. Thank you so much, Henry, for sharing your viewpoints. Yeah, we certainly welcome a different type of opinions, right? Because well, everything's possible. And next, we are also going to go to another topic regarding Bitcoin as collaborative assets. Well, the rise of Bitcoin ETFs, how are traditional finance players reshaping the narrative around Bitcoin as a store of value, and what impact could further institutional adoption have on Bitcoin dominance? We would like to bring this question first to Charlie, the co-founder at BitLayer Labs. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this question I kind of covered that previously on the answers, and so I don't want to repeat myself. But I think the interesting aspect and another angle to talk about it is the Bitcoin dominance side, right? So we all know the beginning of this year we have Bitcoin ETF, which kind of made history for the industry to mainstream adoption, because legally all the institutions have been waiting and talking about should they actually come about Bitcoin or not. Now they finally have a legal compliant vehicle to get through the exposure, right? It didn't happen in the past. In the previous years, we're always kind of in the cutting corner way. Sometimes they were afraid, worried SEC will go after them, and so on. So now I make it very clear, and this red tape is gone, right? Holding Bitcoin, purchasing Bitcoin assets through the ETF is legal, right? So that's good. So the buy pressure comes from institution, like I just mentioned, over 100 billion buy pressure, especially BlackRock, all these guys, all these major institutions, right? They have been purchasing a lot of Bitcoin along the rally, right? All the way from 20K to now 100K. I think it's going to continue still with the first principle, with the momentum I mentioned next year. it's gonna be very helpful for the Bitcoin dominance. But yeah, I wouldn't say Bitcoin dominance as high as goes will be good for the industry. We certainly want some new innovative projects to really have the rally as well. So it's always in the end, right? When we see Bitcoin having all-time high, like today, it's always kind of on the sideline is a lot of alts actually are bleeding out, right? The liquidity getting sucked out back to Bitcoin, so the Bitcoin dominance become very strong. But in a healthy bull cycle, we want to see Bitcoin dominance goes lower a bit after they hit all-time high, so the money flow come from Bitcoin eventually to the altcoins. That's important. But the major institution, all this ETF, all that, the financial strategy we were talking about, even the governments, right? Because of the fact that Bitcoin, only Bitcoin Ethereum has ETF, and Bitcoin has much more trading volume and a capital inflow than Ethereum ETF. The other major assets, large cap like Solana, XRP, doesn't really have that yet. All the institutions going to focus on Bitcoin as a safe asset to bet on. Like it's a high risk asset across all the digital assets, right? But compared to all the other altcoins, Bitcoin has been perceived as this ultrasound fairly safe bet, right? It's still risky compared to many other assets they have, but it's fairly less risky than the others. So that's the unfair advantage Bitcoin have, which leads to Bitcoin dominance or Bitcoin season. But I think things gonna change after a while, right? Once Bitcoin hits some regional all-time high, which is going to happen, continue to happen, we're gonna see the capital flow gradually from Ethereum to the large caps and to the small caps. It's normally the flow and how the industry look like, and I think that cycle of asset flow will be the same. This is an interesting cycle with new players like institution coming into place, but the asset flow from what I just mentioned, from Bitcoin season to Ethereum season to large cap season to eventually alt season, will still the same, will happen. We are very looking forward to see that happening in and somewhere next year. So yeah, for the people who are holding a lot of altcoins, especially the ones that you believe and it actually with strong fundamentals, I think they have a lot of potential as well.
Nice. Thank you so much, Hardy, for sharing your views with us. We certainly will hope to see more and more potentials, right, for further institutional adoption. And we would like to invite Joshua, head of product at Solar, to also share your views on this topic. Thank you.
Yeah, I think in terms of Bitcoin dominance, I think it always comes in cycles, right? It goes up, it goes down. And every cycle we do see a bit of a lag between like Bitcoin hits all-time high first, and then that's where after I guess Bitcoin has had a major run up, then people who have basically bought into Bitcoin earlier, they would start to take their profits. But when people who hold Bitcoin take profits, most of the time, because we're all already involved in the crypto industry, a lot of the money actually goes into flowing into more of the, I guess, high conviction plays in the altcoin market, where people who are native to kind of crypto in general, they've gotten into Bitcoin early, and then they sell off, and they are going to put their money back into something they're more familiar with, which is crypto as well. So that's how money sometimes flows back into altcoins. And then right now we're seeing like the flip side, where because we are all anticipating this massive demand in from institutional buyers, that's where people are also moving money out of alts, maybe sometimes into Bitcoin. But at the same time, if we look at the numbers, I think if you look at DeFi and TVL in general, chains have outside of Bitcoin have also been performing pretty well. I think there's a surge in the TVL for most of chains as well, which I think is positive in that sense that um, it's not just about the I guess like the price of where we are versus where we were 4 years ago, but it's also in terms of the technology that has actually improved a whole bunch since then. I guess with the financials aside, the technologist kind of in me kind of sees and I kind of appreciate that back then 4 years ago, DeFi just got started. There was like DeFi summer. We figured out how to do liquidity pools and simple things like that. Um, right now, where we are at in this technological process is leagues ahead of what we had back then. Now we have chains that are talking to each other. We have people building restaking like on there. We have people helping out more with infrastructure, modular rollups, things like that, right? So I think that's where people have innovated a lot more, and there's a lot more infrastructure and a lot more applications that we see are finding adoption in crypto. And I think that with this, as Bitcoin rises in market cap as well, I think altcoins also have to kind of play their share of the game and push these technological I guess like innovation and also like distribution of it, right? I think back then if we are able to kind of do that, then we would see that both Bitcoin as well as altcoins are flourishing, and then the total market cap grows. It's just like sometimes there are ebbs and flows, like what Charlie said, between altcoins and Bitcoin. But if the overall market is growing, I think that's something that continuously helps to drive innovation forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much for letting us know about your viewpoint on this topic. And we are also going to invite Scarlett, our listing versus analyst at Hash Global, to share your views in terms of the institutional adoption on Bitcoin dominance. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Moonlight. So since like Charlie and Joshua, they've answered this question in respective of Bitcoin dominance, I'll probably address this question in terms of how the traditional players, they're reshaping the narrative of Bitcoin as a store of value. So like personally, I think that traditional financial participation drives Bitcoin's transition from a speculative asset into a store of value. So I say this because, well, firstly, there are more like favorable policies by Donald Trump's administration, and the appointment of SEC chairman by Donald Trump, Paul Atkins, who's a crypto advocate, could alleviate concerns from traditional financial investors regarding the Bitcoin's compliance and legitimacy from this point of view. And secondly, well, I think traditional investors they usually tend to emphasize Bitcoin's long-term investment rather than its short-term return or speculative nature, positioning as maybe more of a store of value. So I would say like it's similar to gold, but and I know a lot of people are saying it's similar to digital gold, but I actually did a research before when I was in college, and the research topic was the correlation of Bitcoin price and the gold price. And unfortunately, there weren't a correlation between these two prices. So I'd say like after the institutions, they as they enter the crypto market, I wouldn't say the Bitcoin price is going to be more similar to gold price or there's a correlation there, but I would say rather the Bitcoin price will be more have a sort of correlation with a U.S. institutional stock style, say Nasdaq. I personally I think it's going to be performing more like a stock. But at the same time, because of the scarcity of Bitcoin and its nature is actually really similar to gold. So apart from that, and I do think that the traditional investment institutions, they'll maybe incorporate Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation and fiat currency devaluation, which is probably going to be moderate and moderate to high in the coming days. So yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scarlett. Wow, you have been starting or doing research on Bitcoin for a while. Thank you for sharing your views. And next, we are going to bring the question to Henry, crypto analyst, to also talk about your opinion in terms of the institutional adoption on Bitcoin dominance. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I think actually Scarlett just touched a couple of very, very interesting points. Thank you so much, Scarlett. One is the correlation with gold, which at the moment I don't know exactly, but I've been studying a lot the correlation of Bitcoin with the M2 money supply. So how much money is in circulation in the US economy? And the 10-year correlation between Bitcoin and the M2 money supply is approximately 78%. This basically means that as long as they print money, and printing money is what causes inflation, then Bitcoin will go up. Because Bitcoin, just like the stock market and pretty much any assets, it's highly correlated with liquidity. So you need to have, if there is liquidity circulating, asset prices will inflate. Okay, but now going back to the Bitcoin altcoin cycle, which was the question was a bit about the Bitcoin altcoin cycle. That's a very good question, and I know that most people really believe that there is kind of a hard Bitcoin altcoin cycle. So for altcoins to start going up, Bitcoin is supposed to go up first, and that's not really accurate. So I have extensively studied this. And if you check the correlation of Bitcoin with the majority of altcoins, I'm not talking like about meme coins. I'm not talking about like well-established altcoins. The correlation is very high. It's like 80 something percent. So the first day, like imagine 2 years ago, Bitcoin was like a low of like 20,000 or so. As soon as it starts to go up, Bitcoin altcoins also start to go up. Okay, so people that are waiting for full-blown Bitcoin bull run to start investing in altcoins, they might be missing some gains. Now, when Bitcoin dominance increases and the price increases, there is a lot of money flowing to Bitcoin and less money flowing to altcoins. So the price of altcoins might increase slower, but it still increases. Okay, and what we see now that we are kind of entering what's the so-called altcoin season is that altcoins, the price goes up faster than before the altcoin season. But the price was already going up. Okay, so if you don't invest in altcoins because it's not yet altcoin season, you might be leaving huge gains on the table. You just look at the top altcoins and you will see that the best strategy is to invest during the depths of the bear market and not just wait for an altcoin season. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Henry, and thank you everyone for sharing your views regarding this segment, Bitcoin dominance. And we are going to go to our segment number 3 over here, Bitcoin dominance and market cycles. We have combined 2 questions into one as we're toward the end of our space event. So, what historical trends define Bitcoin dominance cycles, and what signals a shift toward altcoin season? What key metrics should traders monitor as well? We wanted to hear all of our speakers' experience and suggestions. First, let's invite Charlie, our co-founder at Billiard Labs, to share your views. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm not a major hedge fund secondary liquid trader expert, but we have been in the cycle. I've been about 3 cycles already. I look at the fundamentals. Every cycle has interesting signal and the real world, and also in the industry trends as well. I remember very vividly last cycle. We can call this like NFT or metaverse cycle in 2021, right? When a lot of kind of interesting Web2 companies start actually talking about it, but with no concrete strategy, but just for the sake of joining the party, you know, for the sake of this narrative, it's sometimes a bad signal, and we can call this like top signal, right? So I think this cycle is a bit different in terms of there's a lot of companies that are actually faded at crypto due to the bear market. They haven't really come back yet. Also, the retail with some crazy momentum, except this meme coin, that hadn't been a real meme coin hype, a meme coin bull market yet. That's what I would argue. Compared to last cycle, we are not in this crazy and a greedy, and a bit crazy kind of level yet. So in that case, normally we will see another at least 6 months, even 1 year kind of momentum, because a lot of people haven't really joined the party, right? So consider every bull cycle is a party. This party hasn't really getting to the end yet, right? So that's kind of on the positive side. Um, but I think that's also something we need to work on as a builder, because if there's a lot of things happening in the institutional side already, but it sounds like the retail hasn't entered. Then what is the mass adoption we people been talking about, right? So that's the part that we are also trying to figure out. That's the reason BitLayer we want to bring the utility and use cases around Bitcoin. While Bitcoin is keep hitting all-time high, getting so much momentum. What's for the retail? What's for the mainstream and audience, right? To use the digital assets, use the blockchain and technology for the things they do, right? Not just a speculation vehicle. Obviously, speculation or trading in the part of the financial world is the nature of it, but that's more than that, right? We could do more than that. So that's something I think we're still work in progress. For the people who are being naysayer about Web3, they still have the argument. Majority of the things in the Web3 space are still speculation. There's no real use cases. We're still gonna work on that. So far we have around 280 projects in our ecosystem. We're still actually talking to all kinds of builders to build real legitimate real use cases. While the price movement of hitting all-time high is very helpful, at the end of the day, that's our mission and what we need to do for the industry. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Charlie. And we do wanted to see more and more builders joining the industry to work together. So if you are interested in building in BTC5, be sure to reach out to Charlie or BitLayer Labs. Thank you. And next, let's go to Joshua. We have a product as Solar. In your opinion, and we have 3 questions over here. What signals a shift toward altcoin season? And also, what key metrics should traders monitor in this cycle? Thank you.
Yeah, I think is tricky. I think when it comes to, I guess, top signals and stuff, I still think we're really, really far from that. Most people actually still have a rather more skeptical opinion of crypto, and yeah, we don't see that much, I guess, greed on the street, right? I don't think the last cycle, I remember people were saying, like, the taxi drivers started talking about crypto and NFTs and stuff like that. And that's when you can, I guess, your sixth sense would tell you that, hey, maybe this is a market top. This cycle, we don't really see too much of that. A lot of the flows so far have mostly been institutional from like ETFs, right? But I think there's also usually like a culture shift when it comes to like altcoin season, where people start to kind of be a bit more, I guess the applications that people build focus a bit more on the culture side of things as well. So like more on the, I guess, like everyday use cases, also more consumer focused. So things like this cycle, I think people are looking into PayFi, people are looking into even like when we saw meme coins and pump fund, right? I think that's when people kind of got a lot more mass market, focusing a bit more into the mass distribution side of things. And there are good use cases and there's bad use cases. One really good one, actually, I think Poly Market. There's quite a lot of interest, at least during the elections, from people who had nothing to do with crypto, but then they saw about Poly Market, and some financial institutions even use it and look at it when they're trying to like coming up with their I guess their expectations for the elections. So these kinds of things, I think we're getting started. There's a lot of things and a lot of new projects that are actually taking a lot of mind share in the Web2 space. And I feel that we're still going to probably see a lot more of these before I would call it like a top signal. But yeah, at the same time, just the other day, my dad asked me, how do I buy Ripple or XRP? And then I was like, oh my goodness, is this a top signal? So there's always conflicting things, right? If like your uncle starts calling you in the middle of the night and say, hey, how do I buy Solana? Then maybe, or how do I buy this new meme coin? Then that might be a top signal. But at the same time, I do still think that there's a lot more things that should be done. And I think the technology has grown so much in the past 4 years that if the next cycle hits, we should have more applications, at least much more than what we had back then. I think once we see a lot more of this like innovation, a lot more of this growth really hits the market, and we actually make use of all this infrastructure that we're building, then yeah, I think that's something that we can say that it's probably a top signal. But I think by then, because of all this growth, that top signal will be pretty far away from where we are right now. So yeah, I think still really bullish in the short to long term. And yeah, keep building useful use cases, and I think the rest will take care of itself.
Thank you so much, Joshua, for letting us know about your views. Indeed, we do hope to see more and more applications in the space. And next, we are going to bring the question to Scarlett, our listing research analyst at Hashtag Global. Thank you.
Thanks, Moonlight. So in terms of the metrics of like a Bitcoin dominant cycle is that, so if we think of the cash flow, right? So when the cash flows into crypto market, it will typically like enter Bitcoin first, because if it's high liquidity, and it's the most recognized crypto asset, and it's relatively low risk compared to the other digital asset, right? So at the beginning of the market, the bull market, Bitcoin is usually the first to rally. And when Bitcoin reaches a phase high price during the bull run, and historically it's probably around 60% of the whole crypto market cap. Investors typically they often rotate their profits into higher risk and higher rewards altcoins, like the runes and inscriptions back in this April. And also the meme coin season started from this April and even like earlier. So and another metrics is probably the trading volume of and market activity of a specific exchange. So if you observe a exchange shows that there is more than 10 to 15 altcoins with daily spot trading volumes, all exceeding 100 million, and each rises by over say like 10% consistently for more than a week, it often indicates like a heightened speculative sentiment in the altcoin market. So, and at last, I do like to share some of my personal views. So what I'm about to say doesn't represent any opinion of Hashi Global. It's just like purely my personal views. So I looked back into all the altcoin projects, and I also found that so think of the projects that's really popular during this year. So Poly Market and Pop.Fun, like Joshua mentioned. So if we think of what they are, they're projects like they're providing the investors a platform to make predictions or to bet on something, right? So you must have heard of someone earned like thousands and millions of dollars betting on Poly Market on the U.S. election, and like and people who's outside crypto space might also know Poly Market, and they're really successful. And when talking about Pump.Fun, I regard it as it's more like a casino. So investors, they're picking one meme coin out of 60,000 meme coins per day, because there's like around 60,000 new meme coin launched per day, and they're earning millions of dollars each day, right? So I do think that projects like this will definitely attract a huge user base and become really successful and really liquid if they decide to issue a token. So other innovations, I was thinking maybe DeSci was really popular earlier. And what if we just, would it be a good idea? I don't know. Would it be a good idea if we combine, say, DeSci and the prediction market, say, where investors can bet on or invest on which kind of medicine or drug or research could work and could be effective in healing certain kind of diseases in the end. Would that be a good innovation? I don't know. I could be wrong, but yeah. And at the same time, I also, I still think that there's a lot of rooms for different altcoin sectors, such as gaming, AI, and still meme coins, the big ones like Doge and Pepe. And also PayFi would be another interesting topic for us to consider. And also stable coins, because a lot of VCs are they're investing heavily on stable coins as people who need to, make trades globally definitely need stable coins for their transactions. And so I'll stop here, but if you're interested, you can have a look on the website. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you so much, Scarlett, for sharing your observation with us and also pointing out some suggestions, right? And friends, if you have would like to learn more about it, be sure to go to the website like Scarlett shared with us. And we are going to bring the same question to Henry as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so regarding like strategies to maximizing gains, and which was the initial question, I really agree with Scarlett that like some trends such as DeFi is very exciting. I'm also excited about AI agents that actually have agency and can have access to wallets and manage wallets. But what I do to keep track of the latest trends is I have created what I call my trend strategy. It's a framework. And trend stands for track, research, evaluate, notice, and diversify. So basically, you need to track the emerging technologies and market sentiments, do the research-driven investment thesis, evaluate the potential market size and the impact. Like this, I can have, for example, a very interesting impact. And you notice the trends early and act fast. To be early on the trend is very important because just look at the AI agent space. It's still early, but if you have entered the AI agent space 2 months ago or 3 months ago, it will be actually very amazing. Some of these tokens did amazingly. And finally, the D of trend is diversified. So I'll really keep an eye because now we know that, okay, DeFi, AI agents and so on is very exciting. But what's going to be exciting in 6 months from now? We don't know. Yeah. And other than that, we also talk a little bit about like what are the signals that we are reaching the top. And I just want to tell a funny story of my barber, Grzegorz. So the name of my barber is Grzegorz, and basically he has been into Bitcoin for a few years, but committing all the mistakes possible, right? He bought Bitcoin in the previous bull markets at 60 something thousand dollars. And then Bitcoin crashed. When Bitcoin was like $18,000, I was telling him, Jagosh, please buy now. This is like so low. And he was like, oh, it might go lower, it might go lower. Then Bitcoin went to $40,000. I told him like, you should buy probably $40,000, looks pretty cheap. And my barber, because he didn't buy Bitcoin at $40,000. And now that he's $100,000, last week he texted me asking me to help him buying Bitcoin, right? So this is a common mistake, and it's kind of also a sign of a top market. But I mean, I think we still have more gas to go, and I hope my barber will learn the lesson, and next bear market to actually buy some Bitcoin during the dip.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Henry, for sharing your view with us. And we're going to get ready to wrap up before we ask the very last question over here. Let's talk about altcoin season strategies. How can traders maximize gains while managing risks during altcoin season by balancing between different tokens, for example, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and smaller altcoin? We're also identifying undervalue altcoin with growth potential to minimize exposure to high risk assets. So overall, we would like to hear your altcoin season strategies. Please share with us. First, we're going to bring the question to Charlie, the co-founder at Belair Labs. Thank you.
So obviously, what I said, none of them are financial advice. Do your own research, first of all, as a disclaimer, before I start anything. I'm not gonna mention any tickers, but I wanna kind of share my personal humble investment strategy and thesis. It's still kind of validating, and I think it goes pretty well, in the last couple of last couple of cycle. So it needs to be thesis driven, right? You need to understand you really have to do a research, right? You need to try your best and also start following the people who you think are probably the smartest people in the space who actually done things, not just shilling, but actually doing things. Follow some of the smartest builders and founders, or some of people who have been industrial key leaders are always helpful. But not just listen what they say, but actually like, understand the trend. Understand trend of why user coming into this narrative. Understand who are the people building this and what actually is happening in terms of on-chain liquidity, TVL, unique wallet addresses, and on-chain transactions. Those are the fundamentals actually tell the true story, the truth about what exactly is happening. Not just the vibe check, not just the hype, not just some of the people he said, she said, right? Making decision based on-chain real data, it is very important. There's a lot of tools like Dunes, Nathan, all these very solid infrastructure solutions. EtherScan, right? Obviously, not everybody can be the software engineer who can do the data scientist every day, right? Doing all the data crunching stuff. But there's a qualitative way, or many quantitative way as well to access to good knowledge and insights. What's happening in certain segments, no matter it's gaming, AI agent, deeping, and obviously we have all the infrastructure stuff, right? With Solana, Ethereum L2, and now we're working on Bitcoin ecosystem, all that. Once you build your thesis, you're bullish on that. You need to gain more and more knowledge in terms of who is doing that, and in terms of who are the leaders, who is building what, right? And then getting your comfortable position as so normally we call this sweet spot, right? If you want to get to alpha, you need to ask yourself, when you're entering this alpha, what's the risk you're signing up for, and can they actually outperform Bitcoin or all the other large caps? If not, and have high risk, you have very low upside and very big downside and high risks, I would suggest you normally go back to the main and the major large coins, or even just Bitcoin, I mean Ethereum itself, right? So the alt season is always risky. You know you're signing up for the risky play. You need to make sure you actually can see these assets can go a pretty interesting rally, which can outperform the major assets. If not, don't go for it, right? I think that's normally the very risk like risk assessment play. High return, high risks. There's no such thing called a zero risk, high return, and fast. Right? It doesn't exist, right? It's normally, if anybody claim in that way, it's normally scam. So you need to understand what's risk assumptions, what's the risk you're signing up for, what's the upside you're aiming for, and is that realistic? In what time frame, right? I think entering at certain assets, what Henry just mentioned, certain traders or friends or family members, right? They enter in the wrong timing. Entering the certain assets at the right timing is very important. If you miss the trend, you miss it, right? But for certain trend, you think in the bigger time frame, it's gonna go even higher potential. Then you need to have the conviction to hold it, and even join the rally, although it's already kind of increased quite a bit. But a certain narrative, once it increase, it's also a very solid validation. It builds the support, right? So I think that's it. But having said that, none of them are financial advice. That's the beauty of crypto. It's always something new and very exciting. And it's a lot of things people need to learn, and it never ceases to surprise people as well. I've been in space 3 cycles now. It never sees me to surprise certain things. You need to build your own biases as well. And sorry, you need to get rid of the biases as well, because sometimes because of the bias, you miss a massive gain and massive opportunity. So it needs to be open-minded, but always learn about new things.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Charlie, for those great advices. Yes, well, I have to admit, like sometimes because of my biases, or sometimes because I didn't pay attention to certain areas, right? And so I miss a lot of opportunities. And next, we're also going to invite Josh Ali, head of product at Solaire, to share your altcoin season strategies with us. Thank you.
Yeah, so first of all, beginning with a disclaimer, none of this is financial advice. I am a terrible trader. I use leverage, and I've been liquidated more times than I can hopefully remember. But yes, I think for me, my personal strategy has been, every time like there's an altcoin season, I kind of spread my chips a bit thin. So I have some in some of the projects that I have some sort of conviction in, and when one of them pumps, I kind of rotate that out. So I'm always rotating and rebalancing my portfolio. I think that's something that has been, because I can't really keep up with the news that much. So sometimes if I know about specific kind of projects, I have a good enough understanding of it. I might just put some in there so that if it does pump, I can rotate it in and out and rebalance it in general. It kind of helps with my overall risk appetite. But then again, my risk appetite is definitely not I guess one to imitate after this. So yeah, and I guess for a bit more on the side, I think I definitely agree with doing your own research, looking at the numbers, looking at on chain. I think there's a lot of tooling that's available. You can get all these things. But additionally, I think there's also some interesting things, especially if you're out in the altcoin world lens, that sometimes it's actually really good to kind of stay in touch with like the community as well, to kind of hear what people are talking about. Don't trust everything, of course, but also look at some of the meta trends in general. So like if you say looking at Kaito, right? Kaito is a really good tool that has I think AI as well, and that's where they would actually kind of scan Twitter and see what's the, I guess, what are the topics that people are talking about, who are the kind of people who are kind of leading and building the space as well. So I think there's a lot of tools that out there that can help you kind of get in touch closer with the a bit more on like the, I guess, the on the ground sentiment, right? I think then I guess the final bit is looking a bit more about the fundamentals on the of the product level as well as the technology level. My litmus test usually goes like, is it new? It's like, is it genuinely new, right? No one has kind of like done this before. And then the second one is that, is it simple, mainly, or simple to understand? Because I think there are a lot of very heavily, I get, obfuscated or very complicated things that people build, but then if you can't simplify it down to something that people can understand, it's going to have trouble when it's going to market. So sometimes if you're looking at specific altcoins and it's hard to kind of understand what's going on, I think it's better to come invest only in things that you can understand, because you'll also kind of react in a more emotionally calm way, especially when things go up and down, right? The best thing you can do is to keep a calm kind of state of mind. Yeah, but I think everything usually falls back down to the fundamentals of do you have a product? Do people use it, and is it useful for them? And are they willing to pay for it, right? So I think those are kind of the main guiding principles that you can look at when you're trying to see what's the upcoming products and I guess tokens in that sense.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Joshua, for sharing your view with us. And we will also like to invite Henrik. Would you like to share some altcoin season trading strategies with us? Thank you. Let me double check with Henry. Hello. Make sure the connection is okay.
Yeah, sorry, my connection was not very good. Yeah, but well, I think Charlie and Joshua already has everything. Maybe I'll just add that yeah, fundamentals are very important. You will see many coins with not much fundamentals, or even meme coins, which means zero fundamentals going up, and that's just social media traction. That's just social sentiment. But that's very hard to measure, right? It's very hard to give it a value. While if you look at the fundamentals, if you look at on-chain activity, wallet activity, fees generated, like DeFi protocols and that have like real use, you can look at some metrics like wallet activity, transaction activity, and so on to understand the value. Now, I think it's also important to have a good money management strategy. So never go all in. You should be diversified across different asset classes, invest in ETFs, in stocks, in safe stuff, and then you have an allocation, I don't know, depending on the person, 10, 20, 30% that is allocated to crypto. And then within those 10, 20, 30%, you diversify across different cryptocurrencies. And then, of course, everyone knows that crypto is volatile, but as I like to say, volatility is the price you pay for performance. There is no low volatility, high performance asset in the world. There is no such thing. So if you are into crypto, you need to endure the volatility. But one of the ways to better survive the volatility is by doing dollar cost averaging, DCA. So you can set up, most exchanges have like auto invest or recurring investing, where you can put, I don't know, $50 every week, $500 every week automatically. And it's a hands-off approach. It removes the human emotion, because many times human emotion, we are our worst enemies. And and reduces it. Yeah, so that's my take.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Henry. And also thank you to all of our speakers. Those are a lot of great suggestions or sharing your experience today, right? In terms of Bitcoin dominance versus altcoin season. We're so exciting to hear from Charlie, the founder at Billionaire Labs, Joshua, head of product at Solar, Scarlett, listen, research analyst at Hash Global, and Henry, crypto analyst. And thank you so much, Hack Global, for organizing today's event. Friends, don't forget, we have another mega space event tomorrow with Hashkey Global over here. Don't miss that. Be sure to follow all of our speakers and their projects so you can continue to follow them and receiving the most up-to-date information from their project. Thank you so much. Listen, Moonlight, I'm done speaking. Looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Thank you.